live kindly, because if you're unkind to the person you wake up with in the morning, and the person you wake up with in the morning is your best teacher, because they'll press all your buttons and pull all your strings, that's who you're going to learn from mostly. But so we start to recognize that the teaching's everywhere, the teaching's all around us, everything is teaching us, everything is speaking to us, everything is communicating with us.
We have to want to learn, though, don't we?
You've got to want to learn, but the learning is endless. The learning is absolutely endless. But in order to learn about what's outside of the corporeal world, we have to let go of the need to thrive and be noticed and be secure in this corporeal world. We can't be secure here and we can't fix anything here either. This place isn't here to be fixed. You come to my masterclass and you come and spend a year with me on a masterclass. I haven't got a masterclass now, so I'm not selling a masterclass, but I'm saying if you came on my masterclass, you didn't come to my masterclass to change it. You come because you were going to come and spend a year with me, and things were going to happen. Your weaknesses were going to rise to the surface, and your strengths were going to be accentuated. But you would see who you were, and you see who you were not. But you didn't come there to fix the class. The class was a manufactured environment that was designed to bring out the weakness and strength of everybody involved, everybody. So we're not in the world to fix the world, even though part of our dharma might be to try and fix it and to make our best effort, but we're not going to fix it because it's whack-a-mole. You press a problem down here, it's going to come up there. You press it down there, it's going to come up here. We're not here to fix it. We're here to go deep inside to our very centre and fix ourselves. Whilst there's unkindness in us, while there's perceptions of judgment, while there are perceptions of difference. I did a talk recently and for a group of people who didn't like the fact that I just said I don't believe in class. I'm not saying it doesn't affect people, and I'm not saying people aren't put into classes, but it's a perception. And if you buy into that perception too much, you end up spending the rest of your life defending your own limitations.
Yeah, I was going to say, why do you think they didn't like that?
Because their raison d'etre was like, I'm working class, I'm Indian, I'm black, I'm Asian, I'm abused, a million different things, and that happened to me. It becomes their identity, and they spend their whole life trying to fight a perception. And I'm saying, don't fight the perception, you just make the perception worse. Just change the perception. That's a pocket of knowledge. All the people that were at this talk, all of them were very, very successful people, not despite their background. They were successful because of their background. So we don't want to take that off people. We want to, we've got to have some grist to work with. But my idea is to look at it and go, my freedom from denotation is given to me by consciousness. When I expand my conscious awareness, I suddenly start to see that everything is about perception.
Because I think where they're coming from is, and I know this is a misunderstanding probably that a lot of people have, is you're not saying it doesn't exist. What you're saying is you're engaging with it and it's existing within your perception, because, and you can bypass it.
Yeah, you can use it as a strength if it's creating lots of energy in you. If that imbalance in your life is creating lots of energy, why don't you make something great with that energy? Instead of going around the world trying to fix all the three-legged chairs, why don't you just build four-legged chairs? Growing up as a working class kid gave me a massive amount of energy, but when I bought into that, it just made me feel cheap and limited and not accepted anywhere.
It takes away your power.
It takes away all your power.
And it's also easy to blame when you're not putting the work in.
Yeah, you blame it, it's disempowering,
Yes.
So it's like, well, this group won't accept me because I'm working class. Well, why do you want to be accepted by them? Why don't you make your own thing over here? This person over here doesn't accept me because I didn't go to the right school. Wow, fuck them. Why do you need to be accepted by them? Are they even meeting their own standards? Why do we want to be accepted by them? Well, these people aren't giving me an award. Well, why do you want an award off them? These people can't even control their own waist measurement. These people are betraying their own soul every day. They're betraying their own family every day. It's not a judgment. It's just saying you don't need validation from people that aren't meeting their own standards. Come back to yourself. Find your centre, and none of that will matter. Then you can work in the world and not be over. I'm saying this like it's easy. It's not. I've struggled with it. It's been a real wrestle for me.
Well, tell us about your. A really, really good example of this is when you've come from country, working class, and you weren't accepted by the martial arts. You wanted to go into that inner circle, but you weren't accepted.
Yeah, that wasn't a class thing. I always was in the martial arts and looking at my seniors, people like Terry O'Neill and Dennis Martin and people like that, and Frank Brennan and Andy Sherry. These were like the gods of the martial arts when I was first starting, and I'm thinking, I want to meet these people. I want to be around these people, and I couldn't understand why they were so good, why they were so much better than everybody else.
It's quite an it's quite an elite club as well. If you're not in it,
it kind of is, and it isn't. It's not. It's elite only in that it's a high level of play, but it's not elite in that they don't let people in, because they can't block anybody. You know, if you're either in the room or you're not. If you're in the room, you're in the room. If you're at that frequency, they have no choice. They want to meet you.
Yes. So yeah, continue. So it was.
So Sharon said to me, "Stop trying to meet your heroes. Just do the work. Do the work. Do the work." And I wasn't doing enough work. I was trying to have 3 before 3 occurred.
Were you blaming them as well in any way? Were you saying?
I wasn't blaming them. I just didn't understand. I did within society. I did feel marginalised, and I did think it's mostly, for me, it was just mostly understand. I didn't really understand why this person could earn that much and I couldn't, or why this person was there and I wasn't, and why that person was getting a break but I wasn't. It was more of a lack of understanding. I never felt like I blamed, although with my first wife, I did blame her for everything. I was stuck in a shit job because of her, and it wasn't. And one day she said to me, if you're so unhappy, stop blaming me and change jobs. And I realised then it was me. I was afraid of everything. So with the martial arts, Sharon just said to me, do the work, and those people will want to meet you. And that's exactly what happened. So nobody blocks you from getting into the room, and nobody can kick you out, but you can enter the room if you enter the frequency.
You became the centre of it to some degree at one point.
Yeah, at one point, yeah, I did. And then other people wanted to be in my room, and then some people were like, well, why isn't he letting me in, or why is he kicking me out? I didn't let anybody in. I didn't kick anybody out. If you're at the frequency, you're in the room. And to be in the room, you don't have to do much. You just have to fully immerse yourself into that place. For me, it was just meant full-time training with ascending levels of instruction. So I was always at the bottom of someone else's class, and I gave up my job to train full-time. Even before I gave up my job, I was training 2 or 3 times a day because I was obsessed with it, and I made myself ill a few times by overtraining. But so once you get to that level, I suddenly thought, oh, this is why these guys are so good. They're doing it full-time, and they've got amazing instruction around them. And I never felt really either that I had consistent instruction from corporeal people. I spent time with different teachers, but most of what I learned, I went on the door. I was an average second dan. I went on the door, and there's an egregore around that environment, like a spirit or a being, that taught me the reality of that situation. But it said, before I can teach you, you have to get rid of everything you think you know, which I did. And then I just found this truth, and it was so sharp and so visceral and so rude. And I just started teaching, and everyone was going, that is the truth. I know that's the truth. That you can tell. It contains God in it. It's like it's got that, we call it yakin, that certainty. So nobody blocks you from getting in the room. Nobody stops you from being anywhere. If you sit and do the work, if you stop complaining, if you stop bleeding your energy out with complaint, and stop bleeding your energy out by trying to change the system, and just do the work, believe me, it won't make no difference whether you're working class, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Asian. It'll make no difference. You get somebody that's sat on the truth, and all you want to do is be in their company. All you want to do is be around them. All you want to do is touch them. I've done talks where the organisers come up to me and said, did you see them all leaning into you? I said, yeah. And did you see afterwards how they all wanted to touch you? I said, yeah, that always happens. But it's not to do with me. It's nothing to do with me. I'm just a vessel for this energy, and I want to be a better vessel. So people cross the continent to be in front of the energy. It's so powerful, but it is not you. It's not the personality Geoff Thompson or the personality Paul or Gabriela. It is the energy that comes through you, and I know that. This isn't about humility and being falsely humble. This is about going, I'm trying to be a better vessel. I wouldn't even say I'm a good vessel. I'm trying to be better. I'm still working on shit. But when that energy comes through, everybody wants to touch it because it's truth. it's beautiful, and everybody wants a little piece of it. When we did the screening of Shadow, I said to God, I'm going to go to this thing. It was a difficult week for me because we were casting the musical, and I was there from early morning till late at night, and I didn't think I could fit this screening in for the film we did together, Shadow. And I realised after speaking to Gabriela that I needed to be there. It was important because the genesis of this project was God. It came from a place of love, and I needed to be there. And I had to fall out with the people at the casting because I said, look, I've got to go to this. I've got to go. And they said, yeah, but we won't be finished in time. I said, well, we need to finish in time. So I'm going to go. And they weren't happy anyway. Anyway, I turned up. But I was there for the wrong reason, but there was a lot of opposition trying to stop me from getting there. But when I was there, I could feel love coming from my fingers. I could see it coming from my fingers. And I could feel that everybody I touched felt it, even though they couldn't identify it. I felt it coming out of my fingers. And then when I came out afterwards, I said to Sharon, I need to go down to the river. And I walked down through London, and I could see God in every light. And I looked at Parliament, and I saw God there. And I thought Parliament was an unholy place, but I could see the presence of spirit in that place, and I could see that there were angels and guardians within that place. Even though there's corruption there, I could see that it was overseen. And everywhere I went, I could just see God in everything. They called it panpsychism. Every element contains God. But I felt it coming from, it was the most visceral I've ever felt it in my whole life, ever. And I felt it coming from my fingers. And I could see it coming from my fingers. And I just wanted to touch people. They call it the imposition of hands. You touch people. You notice I do that a lot. I touch people's chest a lot. And it's about transferring spirit. When you're around people, it's about transferring spirit with breath, with sound, kodadharma, with touch. And you touch them and they feel it. They feel something, but it's not you. And the important thing is knowing it's not you. Because the moment you think it's you, you're suddenly going, look how great I am, look how people are affected by me, look how they are when they're around me. It's not you. If the moment you click into that, you've disconnected from the source again. So this is what I recognised, that I needed to get rid of all the perceptions, the concepts, the precepts, the built-up cognitions within my body. I had to starve them out and replace them with spirit. So every time I removed a negative concept by overcoming a fear on the pyramid, that was replaced with consciousness. It literally fell into my mind. It didn't even have to ask for it. The moment you removed a little fistful of sludge, a fistful of spirit would enter you. And it's literal. You might call them quantum entities, or you might call it spirit. It doesn't really matter. It's sentience. And beyond all that is God, which is even God is just a manufactured name. So you would call it the Ein Sof, which is the infinite, which is not anything you can particularly describe, but you can experience it. So when I felt that spirit coming through my fingers, I felt it. It was an overwhelming feeling, and I just needed to go and stand and look at a body of water to contain it, because it was just suddenly on me. It was just there.
Do you know where it came from?
Yeah, I know exactly why it came, because I fucking got out of my own way. I stopped being busy and I started doing what I felt I should be doing, and I started getting busy doing what God wanted me to do. He said, didn't we have an agreement that you break your covenant with Vice and you create a covenant with me, and I'll supply everything you need, everything. But you need to follow my covenant. You need to go where I ask you to go. And you're not going to that place, and you know with a bit of effort you can be there. So I went there because it was a selfless thing to do. In other words, I got rid of myself. And I said to God, I'm really sorry, I've made a mistake, I'm going to go. And I turned up, and it still remains the closest I've ever been to feeling that energy. So it came because I made myself a vessel for selfless service. Normally there's always a bit of an agenda. Had it again recently when I went to London. I got invited to go and do something, and I didn't want to go, and I talked myself out of it. This negative spirit got in, a bit of self-pity, a little bit of just crept in. And I'll tell you the story, Paul. I sent an email to 2 places, said I can't come to these events. And I walked from my office back into here. I was in my office and I heard a thud. And I walked back in here and a bird had flew into that window and hit the window and died, and it was bleeding on the pavement in front of me. I went straight back in the office and I wrote back to the 2 people and I said, I apologise, I've made a mistake, I'm coming. And then when I went to London for this particular meeting, the main one, I saw Jesus sitting outside a shop doorway in Oxford Street, and he gave me a message. I'll tell you the message, but I'm writing a book about it at the moment, and it's more complicated, but it's not. And the message was that you overcome evil with good. So if your breath is wrong, you're not oxygenating, you're not getting enough respiration, then you can replace that with good breath, with good technique. If your food is not good, you can replace that with good food. If your company is not good, you can replace that with good company. If your perceptions and concepts and precepts are evil, not good, you can overcome that with good concepts and precepts. So it was a tiny meeting that getting to this, meeting this Jesus figure on Oxford Street was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was the fucking longest day in the world. Everything was stopping me from going to London. But when I got there and I did this walk and I was late for the meeting, for this screening, and I didn't want to go anyway, and then I'm not going to go into the detail because I'm not going to go into the exact detail, but just enough to say that getting down this street to meet this person when I met him spontaneously was painful. It was like walking through, it was like walking underwater. Everything was compelling me in the opposite direction. Everything was compelling me. And when I finally got to this and met this guy and had this encounter with him, this message was so powerful. And he just said one word. I said to him, I started talking to this Rough Sleep, and I said to him, "What's your name?" And he said, "My name is Evil." No, he didn't. He just said evil. I said, "Evil," and he said, "Evil." He said one word, and it's already become nearly 90,000 words.
This is the new book you're writing.
Yeah, I'm writing a book at the moment. It's already 90,000 words, and I'm only just touching the sides.
And based all on this experience.
Yeah, it just poured out of me, and I've been frightened to sit and write this because there's no end to it. It's so rich and so raw as it's coming through. I'm up for it. I'm doing it. I'm sitting down every day, but it's every single day I'm struggling to sit down and write because there's voices coming in my head going, what does it mean? Where's it going? What the fuck is this all about? You know, this isn't making any sense. And the reason these voices are coming up is because it's residues of old perceptions that are rising up and going, we don't like this new influx. We don't like this new energy. So the writing is a form of repentance. It's a form of cleansing. It's a form of Japanese misogi, where I'm cleaning from the inside. So the cleaning continues, you know. And as I clean more out, more comes in. So I'm learning more from, all this stuff that's coming out of this book, I've never heard half of it before. It's amazing. But some of the stuff I'm getting is incredible. But it's all coming down to a simple concept, which is be kind. Work from a place of love. Do you want a teacher? You don't need to go to Japan. You don't need to go to India for a teacher. Just have a look at the person you wake up with tomorrow morning, because she winds you up, or he winds you up. Or look at your child, or look at your neighbour. The teachers are all around you. Once you get this idea of panpsychism, you recognise that even the beings in your house will speak to you if you ask them a question. So,
and how you can't fast track this learning. So you've started quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
Is it key to start as soon as possible?
I just think it's key to start when you're ready to start. You know, there's no set rules with any of this. Some people say he's too young. Some people say I'm too old. But you're not. You know, when you feel it, then you start. But you do the work, and the work is always on the self. The work. I'm not going to try and fix Sharon. It's nothing to do with me. You know, I'm not going to try and fix my kids as much as I've tried. You know, not that they need fixing, but you know, you want to give them what you've learned. But They don't necessarily want it. My job is to fix me. My job is to get myself to the very centre. My job is to not make another decision again in my life. My job is just to say to God, where do you want me?
And can this change happen in the background? Does it have to be always so painful?
For me, it's been painful. And I've not met anybody yet it hasn't been painful for. And the painful part is because we have to go through a period of shattering.
So you have to put in the work, you have to confront things, you have to take responsibility.
Repentance is painful because we're looking at all of the mistakes we've made. We're cleaning them all out. Repentance means to return, means to repair, means to find refuge in the still centre. But to get back to the still centre, you have to go past all of those dead bodies from your past. It's not that you can forgive yourself from them, but you can repent them. You can look at them and go, I did that, that was me. I take full responsibility. And then you allow God to remove it from you, and that's I found it very painful. But then I have been a guy that I was very violent for a long time, so I had a lot to remove. But it's just like saying I want to build an Olympic level. I want to be what's that great bodybuilder's name?
Schwarzenegger.
Not Schwarzenegger. No, the British kid.
Dorian Yates.
Dorian. I'm saying I know Dorian. He's our friend, but you look at him. If you say I want a physique like Dorian Yates, is it going to hurt? Well, yeah, but you learn to love that discomfort. You learn to love that burn. So you learn to love the spiritual burn. When I understood that, the discomfort I feel when I get up in the morning to meditate, the discomfort I feel when I sit and the discomfort I felt before I talked to you two this morning, the discomfort I felt before you arrived, it's nothing to do with you or nothing to do with the work. It's to do with the fact that I have to expend that energy. And that energy has to come through me and pick up all my broken bits or all my sin or error, and it has to come through. So it's uncomfortable. But you learn to love that, because when you realise that's repentance, that's spiritual fasting, that's what's making me smaller in order for me to expand, you start to relish it and you go, I want to be in the burn more. I want to be in the burn longer. I want to find more ways to be in the burn. But I don't make those decisions. God puts stuff in front of me and says, do this, do that.
But you've always sought the truth, which is good. And another thing that you do is take full responsibility.
Yeah.
That's really key. I think those two things, seeking the truth and not making excuses.
If my car's parked outside there, and I'm sat in here and another car runs into the back of it like it's invisible, I take responsibility for that. Obviously, I don't say to the insurance people, this is metaphysical, you don't need to pay out. I'm aware that I'm working in the world and people work with rules, but I'm aware that at some level, I'm out of alignment, otherwise that can't happen. So it's either karmic, as in it's something that's returning to me, or I've fallen out of alignment. But where I'm working now, I can't fall out of alignment. I do fall out of alignment, but I can't afford to. If I fall out of alignment, Paul, and I've got a glass there, I'll go to touch it and it will shatter in my fingers because I'm out of alignment. And I'll just say to God, I'm out of alignment. Where am I out of alignment? Show me how to get back into alignment. But I'll know anyway. I'm sat here looking across and there's a girl wearing nothing more than a spray tan, because it's summer. And I look over and my eyes linger a bit too long. And that's a fracture for me. That's a place I can't go. And if I stay there too long, I automatically start allowing vice in, and the glass just shatters in front of me, and I go, I get it. I bring myself back to alignment, and I don't go there. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Or it might be just, you might be sat with somebody, and you're there to help them, and then suddenly you're thinking, oh, what's in this? Maybe this guy's got connections for me. Maybe this guy, this guy's loaded. Maybe this guy will, suddenly you're not there for them anymore. You're suddenly thinking about what's in it for you. And then I would get a sign very, very quickly that I've fallen out of alignment. So I get very physical signs in my life, in my body. If I fall out of alignment, I'll turn around and there'll be a muttering maniac sat next to me outside the cafe. Literally an insane person. And I'll just say to God, where am I out of alignment? Or I'll look across and there's a couple kicking off, and I'll go, where am I out of alignment? So I take responsibility for everything. And I fall out of alignment every day, but not in a big way. If I fall out of alignment with Sharon, I catch it normally within about 5-10 seconds, and I just say, I apologise, it's me. I've sat at the computer too long, I'm a bit out of balance, and I bring it back. But then I look at Francis, I look at Columba, I look at Mandela, I look at all of these people that I really admire myself, and even at the level of sainthood, they were still falling out of alignment. But because there are massive temptations all the time to break the hermetic seal. And it's not like, Francis always said that the devil is a roaming lion and he's looking for people to manipulate. But I felt it's even worse than that. I feel as though it's like a hermetically sealed light bulb. The pressure is on the glass all the time. It's not like it's going, oh, Geoff's out of alignment, let's hoof our way through there. This pressure is against the glass all the time.
But if you have a lot of pain and the things that you do, the vices give you pleasure, then that's where addiction stems from.
Yeah.
We tend to kind of gravitate towards that because it makes us momentarily feel good. Whereas you've gone the opposite way and actually sat in discomfort.
Yeah,
but you've seen the growth.
The discomfort has been about getting rid of those parasites. Because when we allow vice in, this is what the law of the vampire is. The vampire can't cross your threshold. He can't enter your door without your permission. But once he's in, you can't get him out again.
And what have been the benefits of sitting in that discomfort rather than going to the things that make you temporarily feel good, the vices, etc.?
Well, the vices, you lose your free will. You're a prisoner. You're absolutely a prisoner to those vices. You don't even know that they're not you anymore. You don't realise that you've been invaded by demons, by parasites. They're real. They're in you. So what you let across the threshold and you create a covenant with, it will bring some pleasure to the body, but you're imprisoned by it, and eventually it takes everything off you. Took my brother's life off him, took my sister's life, took a lot of my friends' lives off of them. A lot of my friends have ended up doing double life terms in prison because they've allowed these demons across the threshold, and then eventually they couldn't get them out. Some of them ended up being big drug dealers, and some of them ended up being murderers. And now they're in places where they are tormented by other demons every single day, working through people. So these things are real. So if you look at sexual pornography, or if you look at greed, or any of the excesses, even if it's just food, when you let it across the threshold, you're creating a covenant with it. You're letting a being, a creature, or a parasite across the threshold. Why do you think so many people can't lose weight? Because it's not what they're eating, it's what they're feeding. There's something in them that they're feeding. So if you the reason people don't lose weight is because they don't want to see what that thing is. Because when it rises up, they've got to look at it. It might be an old scar, it might be an old sin, it might be an old perception, but they're feeding something. It's not what you're eating, it's what you're feeding. It's anything you take in through the senses is living. So you have to be very careful about what we're in covenant with. That's why spiritual fasting for me, when it gives me bliss, it means I can sit here and I'm just working under God's will all the time. I sit and write all day, or I'm reading, or I'm walking to the cafe, or I'm meeting somebody, but I'm in that space of spiritual work all the time, from when I get up in the morning till when I go to bed at night, all the time.
But you're happy with simplicity. The simple things in life make you really happy and content.
Yeah. I got off my pan. I had a big Panerai, I had a Rolex, I had all these things. Get it off, get it off. All of this. But I needed all that. I needed to go through all that. I needed to realise that it isn't going to make no difference. It's just tat. So
really the moral of the story of all this journey is that you can sit out there and look at the view and just be in complete
and
contentment.
communicate with God, and also understand and experience more. I want to understand why we're here. I want to experience more. I want to go beyond the dimensions of my body. I mean, I think I told you I was taken out of my body while I was awake, and I was taken through a cloud to a teacher who I watched preaching, and he had a message for me. I don't have any doubt about life beyond the body, and I don't have any doubt about God, because I've experienced it. I've experienced dimensions outside of this body. I've had beings appear in front of me. So I don't have any doubt. I don't have to fully understand it, because I don't fully understand it, but my understanding is expanding. So when I'm teaching, I'm a bit like when I was on the door. I was teaching from a place of truth. I don't need anybody to validate that, because it just is truth. It just works. So in my own life, my life is the proof of what I live. And I try to put out the work there for as many people as possible, because it might just act as, so I've got spirit in me and I put it into a book. That's a living spirit. If you open the book and read it and you feel inspired, it means that spirit's entered you. So that's my job, to place as many spirits in different forms in the world, with the films, with the books, with the plays, with these talks, just with my presence. If I sit in a cafe, even if nobody knows me, and I'm spiritually aligned, that cafe should thrive because I'm there. People in the cafe should be inspired. People could be healed. People could get aspiration just because you're there. And it's nothing to do with you. It's to do with what comes through you. And that's because you're working from a selfless place. And selfless doesn't mean I'm a kind bloke. It means I've got rid of the self. But the self is always trying to reintegrate itself. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because I fuck up all the time. I'm the worst. I make mistakes all the time. But I'm in a situation where if I make a mistake, I'm absolutely shown immediately. I'm guarded and protected all the time. So if I fall out of alignment, it's like I hit an electric shock. And I come back into alignment very quickly. So my life is, I've been put into a situation where my life allows me to just fully immerse myself into this. Just because I want to be a vessel for this energy, and that just enables me to understand. Because if I bring something through to share with you, because you need it, I can give it to you, but at the same time, it's permeating every one of my cells. So I get to learn what I'm passing on to you. So if I receive it in order to share it with you, which is a selfless act, there's no agenda. I don't expect anything back. But what I get is I get the knowledge I give to you, I receive. I have to receive it in order to give it to you. So I expand in the process of serving. And I was talking to Gabriela earlier on. It's the more I can do that free, the better. Because the less agenda there is, the less polluted it is. And it doesn't mean money's wrong, because money obviously comes from God as well. Because God is omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent. It's just another form of his energy.
It's the exchange of energy.
It's just how you work it and what you do with it. But my particular covenant is to work less with money and just work more with pure energy. So money is when you consummate something. So when you say if I look at somebody, I can intercourse with their energy without touching them, without them even knowing me. I can just feel that love going back and forward. But if I felt the need to converse or to touch or to even take it to a relationship, that energy is reduced more and more. The signature's still there, but it's reduced more and more. So when we start exchanging things for money, the energy is reduced. It's not that it's not there, and it's not that you don't have to make money. But the less you can consummate the energy, the less you can put it into something, the more pure it will be.
So you're connecting on a really deep level.
Yeah, you're connecting at the purest level. So instead of going, well, I'm going to go through 3 or 4 filters here, and then you end up with the signature, but not all of it. If it's done from a place of pure love, where there's no agenda, it's just like, I'm here because God's asked me to sit and do this. And then you go away, and I don't think about it again. I don't think about what's in it for me. I don't think of, whether I'm validated, whether people like me. When there's no self there to do that, then suddenly I'm just a vessel for this energy, which means I'm constantly infused with that energy. It's constantly in me, and I don't go and look for people to serve. That's nothing to do with me. I just serve the people that God puts in front of me. And I'm aware that some people will look at this and think it's a little bit out there. But when I first started teaching the reality stuff about the door, I was shunned by the greater majority of the martial arts community, the elites in the martial arts community anyway, because I was speaking the truth that was at odds with what they were teaching.
You threatened the
it was really threatened, but it was just truth. And it came in a package that they found very uncomfortable. So I'm just doing the same now. I'm passing on what I'm experiencing as truth. And at some point, people will see it and they'll go, yeah, my battle isn't with the guy next door. My battle is with perception. I remember talking to some guys in one of the toughest prisons in Britain. I had a period of time when I was going, part of my repentance was to go and talk to people in prisons. It's partly how I cleaned my own errors. And I went to one place where there was a lot of people then. There was like murderers, there was drug dealers. It was like a Cat A prison. And I went there, and you'd think these are all, criminals and all that. And I remember saying to them, you're here because of perception. You've killed somebody because of a perception. You've done this because of a perception. But perceptions can be changed, and they got it. You think you'd go into a prison and they wouldn't get it, but these people were in a place where they know they're incarcerated, they know they're there for a long time, and they want to know why they're there, so they're open to the truth. And you go, it's about perception. You can change perception, but you're going to have to work. You can't have vice and virtue in you at the same time. You've got to get, if you want to make room for God, you need to get rid of all of those parasites that you've been,
conditioned.
Yeah,
like you say, it's not just
conditioning is a parasite.
From your ancestors.
People kill because of conditioning. People murder because of conditioning. But conditioning is just we're conditioned with a perception, with a precept, which is a rule, or with a concept, which is an abstract idea, or the cognition, which is like a belief in the brain, a little pocket of energy in the brain, which has become a belief, which we've taken in from all of our different senses. They can be changed. We can get to the place where we can go beyond perception. And I need to stipulate that I'm still failing at this. I still get caught by it. I'm not saying it's easy, but then again, if I wasn't getting tapped out, then I'm not in the room, am I? With our martial arts, I remember my friend coming to me and saying that he was quite conceited. He said to me, "Oh, Geoff, I haven't been tapped out for 3 months." And I said, "It's because you're not fighting anyone any good." And he goes, "How do you know that?" I said, "It's because you haven't been tapped out for 3 months." I said, "I'm getting tapped out every session. I'm training with Neil Adams. Every fucker's tapping me out. I'm at the bottom of the class." So I don't beat myself up because I'm making mistakes, but I don't want people to think I'm not making mistakes. I'm fucking up all the time.
It just means that you're continuing on your journey. You're growing, you're learning.
It's because I'm going into broader places, and I'm going against energies that are tapping me out. But that, I'm learning. When I was at Neil's class, believe me, I learned very, very quickly.
Well, that's what Thomas Edison said, that I can tell you 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. I can tell you one way how to make it, but 1,000 ways not to make it. So what's there's a big lesson to be learned there.
Yeah, it's all about just growing, and there's no limit to that. There's no limitation. But I'm not going to grow by changing what's happening in a distant country, or I'm not going to grow by having to rant about Boris online. Or by saying something kind about Donald Trump. I'm going to grow by going into myself and finding those elementals within me. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to find the Donald Trump. I'm going to find the Boris. I'm going to find the greedy banker or the corrupt politician. I'm going to find them in me, and I'm going to get rid of them, and then I'm going to replace them with a Mandela, or I'm going to replace them with a Gandhi. This is what basically what Gandhi did. What Gandhi did is he spiritually fasted, so his perception of the whole world changed. He said, "You've got to work hard at this." He said, to change the world, but it won't make no difference to the world, because the world is always going to be a place of restriction, because that's how we grow, through restriction. But there was a scene in the film Gandhi where he's talking to these arrogant, conceited British colonial parasites, the British politicians, because they colonised India, but he basically said, "Look, you're masters in somebody else's house." And the guy looked at him and goes, "What, you think we're just going to walk out then?" And he goes, "Yeah, you will walk out. You will walk out." He says, "Because you brought 100,000 people in here to control us." He says, "But I've got 350 million people who will sit down and passively resist you. You will walk out." The power, because he knew he'd got that rightness, he'd got God on his side. He got virtue on his side. And interestingly, Gandhi carried the Gita with him everywhere. It's the only book he carried, the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the battle against perception. And every day we need to remind ourselves, this person is threatening me, and it feels real, but it's a perception. It's not that I'm not feeling it, I need a reminder. He didn't carry it around with him, Paul, because he'd got it. He carried it around him because he needed reminding every day.
Yes, yeah, because it's easy to be disconnected.
Yeah.
And like you say, through media, through just day-to-day life, they disconnect.
Yeah.
And if you can connect other people with the pure perception.
The reason we do our page is just to put what we're learning out on and let, if people want to see it, they can see it, It should start an investigation. It might give them a moment of balm or a bit of direction. It might give them a kick up the bum. But it's there just to serve people. But it's the same as what I did on the door. And at some point, people will see this in the same light as they see the door. They'll go, why didn't I see that? I've got lots of friends who would never, ever have looked at this stuff, whose circumstances now have placed them in a situation where they are looking and going, this is the new Buddha.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. I think we've covered
everything.
Covered the world.
Changed the whole world.
We've set it to rights. Thank you, Geoff.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.